Welcome to today's episode of Four Wheel Fabrication. And today we're going to fix this BMW e39 transmission. So this ear is broken off. It's supposed to look like this side. Obviously this side is no good. Your first step to doing this repair is going to be cleaning this aluminum around the weld area as best as you possibly can, because the cleaner the aluminum, the easier it's going to be to weld this. And then the next step you're going to want to do is take your piece and bevel it. Now don't bevel so much that you lose material. Like I kind of sharpened it down to a point here, but I didn't lose distance of material because we want this to all end up in the same place so it still bolts up. So this is going to sit just like that. Okay, and we're going to fill that big groove with weld. So and the first step to welding this is actually going to be, we're going to have to heat up this area here and probably this piece once it's tacked on there with a torch, because otherwise you're going to sit here till your clothes go out of style waiting for the TIG torch to get this hot enough. I only have a 200 amp machine and it's not water cooled, so since it's only air cooled, the handle is going to get really hot to hold before this is probably going to get hot enough. So what I'd like to do is just get this preheated with the cutting torch, obviously not cutting, so that we can kind of have it already hot, so that all we have to do when we come in is, you know, as soon as we strike an arc, it'll only take 2 or 3 seconds to get it hot enough to start dipping the filler wire in here and fixing this transmission. So let's get started. So just to give you a little bit more of a close-up, you can kind of see where I cleaned up this edge here. All right, and then we have our other piece right here that's gonna go right on there like that. So let's get started. All right, so like I said, we're gonna use our torch here. We're gonna just kind of heat this up gently and just try and get it warm, kind of in this kind of motion here. We're not gonna get really close with the torch. You want to keep it a couple inches away, because if you get too close, you are going to melt the aluminum and you're going to lose material, and you need all of that material that's there to put this back together so it's within about the same area of where it was from the factory, so that it still bolts up. So therefore, like I said, you're going to hold this a little far away like this, and you're going to heat this up so that you can get this warm enough to get it ready to weld. Once you're going to weld this, definitely wear gloves, because it's going to be hot. Aluminum moves heat very quickly. This whole area is going to get very warm. So a lot of times when you're working on older aluminum, heating this up is also going to bake a lot of the contaminants out of it, especially if it's cast, because cast aluminum is very porous and holds a lot of dirt and oils and grime from the road. So we're just going to fire this up. Now that we did that, we're going to get the other piece tacked on there in a sec, and then we should be ready to go. So another thing I want to point out that's really important when you're welding aluminum is you always want to make sure your ground is grounded to what you're welding. If you have this on a big stain or a big steel table like what I have, when you try to ground to this, it's going to jump from this and blow a corner off. So as you can see, this is now tacked on and pretty much ready to get welded. We're probably going to do a couple passes that are going to be kind of taking advantage of the cleaning function of the welder to kind of bake out any imperfections in the metal here, since it's such old metal. And then we'll probably come back, wire brush it one more time, and do a nice finish weld on it. Unfortunately, typically when you weld stuff this old, you're not going to have the most beautiful welds, but they will definitely be functional, and I'm going to do my best to make them look nice, because that's a pretty decent groove I can kind of follow. But yeah, so we're going to get this welded up. And like I said, always make sure you ground to the piece you're welding, because if you don't, what's going to happen is it's going to try and find a ground down here, and it's going to jump between this and this, and it's going to end up blowing a chunk of aluminum off of this, and then you'll lose, if it's a sealing surface, you'll lose the surface, and that's no good. So just a little tip for you. I apologize, because this is going to be a little loud, just because I have the welder and I'm going to have the torch running. You may not be able to hear me. I'm going to try and speak loud enough. We're going to heat this up so we don't have to preheat so long with the welder. It's also going to bake any imperfections out of the material. Yeah, the rubber's going to burn a little bit. Unfortunately, we can't do anything about that. Just a little bit close. I'm going to try and get some weld on this. See how it welds at first. If it's not welding good, I'll stop and I'll try and use the cleaning function. Looks like we got it. Let's take a look here. So we were able to weld in here. I'm gonna probably leave this for the customer and he can grind out however much he thinks he needs. That way we can leave as much of the weld on there as possible. On the back side, got it welded up pretty good here. So there you have it. The ear's back on. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope that if you did, you click like and subscribe. I hope to be posting more videos in the coming weeks and hopefully make this a regular thing. My goal is to just share my passion for vehicles and welding, and hopefully show people that a lot of this stuff is things you can figure out on your own at home with some basic tools and some basic home grade machines.